you recommend that you buy things and you design things that aren't necessarily just specifically to your taste, especially if you're selling stuff to people that come to your shows, you know, like, just because I like wearing certain colors doesn't mean that everybody, or just because I think this design's amazing, you know, people just probably didn't buy my shirt because they just didn't like what was on it, right, or some sort of thing. But using multi-colors, like, I think that's a really great, we just did stickers and multi-colors with different paint colors on it, so now it looks like we've got hundreds of kinds that are just all just different colors mixed and matched and so forth. So we also, why I forgot to mention about the board in here, why that's important is because if I didn't put that board in there, the screen itself would be sitting through the t-shirt. Let's just say, I'm going to use the other one. This is why it helps that that foam board raises up the t-shirt part that you're actually screening on a little bit, right? It's kind of raised above. If I took that foam board, this would be sitting on the actual table, right? So there's less chance of maybe shirt wore up or, you know, the creases like this. And this is a good example why I'm still talking on that subject. Whereas if the silk screen is going to go all over your entire shirt, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, this puffy part isn't, I already know that this part here is a little bit more raised because it bunches up, right? Where if I'm using this one here, is back to the earlier how I was talking, how I can actually see where I can put the image on compared to this big giant thing here. You kind of, and again, you get really good at it anyway at some point, or hopefully you get really good at it, you know, at eyeing it over and over. So I think I will do the big one on the other smaller shirt, and I'll do this one here. And really, the most important thing, like I said, all this doesn't really matter as far as just where you're putting your image at, that you want it to be pretty smooth, you know. And I usually, sometimes if you want to use a squeegee, everybody has different ways. I'm happy with just a nice flat image because, again, this screen itself is going to help do that anyway, especially when I'm pulling the squeegee over it. I'm keeping it pretty flat, like I'm almost ironing it anyway. This one's special. Why not, right? So back to how I was talking about how it's a little bowed. See how that is? I already know just by this that it's higher up here because this board comes up higher, and it's higher up here than it is in the middle, right? So definitely we're going to give this plenty of pressure, and we're going to actually hold that down. This is brand new, right? Okay, so I haven't used this. Usually if I haven't used what I usually just shape the paint, right? Just to give it consistent, or just to get, just like anything else. But if I've already used it and I've covered it up a few times, I always get like a fork and kind of just whip it like it's like making cake batter or something. You want to get the little lumps, because it does get that way. And I just, again, I magically added water and it worked just as fine. It doesn't look any different than the other red that I already had. So you can just make sure that it's consistent, that there's no lumps, that there's no anything going on there. It's a pretty simple process. Again, I like to not waste things, so I try to, and you'll learn on your own as you're doing this yourself on how much paint to put on there. If I put a lot of paint in the beginning, I'm going to keep reusing that paint till that paint actually goes away. So this is an example that I had, and I'm kind of going to mess it up a little bit. I'm not going to try too hard to make it perfect because I already know that the screen's off, to show you just how the screen being off itself is not very cool. So what I just use a simple spoon, and I just make about a 1-inch thick line of paint going across. And again, I try to make it even all the way across, just visually. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know. Do that too. So we're going to hold that down. I believe it was. Let's shift it so everybody can see and that you can actually hold it without. You can hold it from over here. Right. And so all I'm going to do is, at all times, once I start using my squeegee, like I said, I'm going to keep it at that same angle all the time. I'm not going to do this and then do this to it, because there's going to be different types of amount of pressure going into paint. And also, once you put a certain amount of pressure down, that's something you have to work to get at. I know I did, is to keep that same amount of pressure and at that angle at the same time. And that's probably like the most important thing about getting an even amount of paint through that silk screen. So we're going to press it down. You'll see. So we'll do that. Came up a little bit on the L. And there.
So
all the
you
paint.
pretty much as much pressure as you can, or
right now
you
just
kind of learn.
Well, like with this one, with that metal one, for sure you don't. Like I could do that by myself if I was alone. Like this one, I know I can't do this by myself.
Right.
Yeah,
that's both.
Mm-hmm. And that makes a very huge difference. So then, just kind of lift it up. And see, I put a lot of pressure because I know this was bowed, but remember we talked about where the constellations went. It's too much paint went through there.
Yeah.
You know. And again, I forced I put a lot of force on there. But if I would have done it really lightly, the way I really wanted to do it, I already know that it would have had like in the middle, I would have had missing paint. If I would have done it like again, beginning to end smoothly on that. So I'll do the other one to show you the difference on that. On how, yay, my new shirt. Right? The artwork begins. So we'll do that other small shirt.
And that's not enough ink to worry about transferring on the inside of the next shirt or anything like that.
This one here, usually
wipe it off.
It stays pretty dry.
It dries pretty fast.
Yeah, it dries pretty fast, and I kind of just do this to it, and it's on the inside of the shirt, but especially if it's a colored shirt. I only get specifically clean that off if I'm going to use a white shirt.
White, yeah.
For sure. And again, at some point, I would have already had at least 3 or 4 of my shirts already in cardboard ready to go, so I can just pick it up, go with squeegee and go. Because right now, the paint's sitting on that squeegee. And if you have a ceiling fan or something running, I always recommend turning that off because that doesn't help as far as airing or as far as the paint starting to build up on your screen. It just starts kind of clearing it up a little bit. So this one's going to be a little tougher, and I'm going to do the multiple metal screen pop pistol one. It's going to look hopefully. And this one, I don't care how this comes out at this point. I just want to show you the different types of pressure that you really need to require. This is going to come out random here, and like I said, I'm not that finicky on it. Now you also got to take into consideration how much paint you use through that. And again, being really make sure that you don't waste a lot of the paint. A lot of the paint stays on there, so I'm going to put half the amount that I did earlier in my beginning part over here, because I'm going to use the rest of that paint. I already know, so I'm going to put like a little bit thinner lines. Then what I'm going to do, oh, I have the wrong squeegee. That's what it is. I'm going to use this one. I'm just going to take that paint right off. And again, you don't have to do that, but I'm one who does not waste paint. A little more, since I'm starting from scratch.
How much is a jar of paint?
A little jar of paint costs like $7.
Okay.
And I think we go through about 5 batches of T-shirts, and they're usually about 10 to, I'm gonna say maybe like 12 to 20 per batch. And this one might come out a little, because I might not have put enough paint on it, but it's gonna be my freaky. See, you guys see all that there? And it's because this whole screen is sitting inconsistently on top of this object. Now, ideally, what I would want to do is maybe put it on the table where it's only holding my shirt up where I want it to be screened. Does that make a little sense?